Hi everyone, welcome back to Storytime, The Land of Raw by Jenny McLachlan, illustrated by Ben Mantle. We're on chapter 23. We know something is wrong the moment we step inside. Our feet crunch over sand, thick dust covers every surface, and the door at the back of the hut is swinging open. As we walk further in, a yellow crab scuttles out from under a cupboard, crosses to a hole cut in the wooden floor and drops over the side with a plop. I realise that it's fallen straight into the lagoon. I peer into the hole. The water is clear and deep and full of tangled weed that's dotted with fluorescent snails and tiny starfish. I have a flashback to Mitch heaving herself out of this hole, her tail hitting the planks with a wet thump, then looking at me and saying, "Oh, it's you." Only there is no Mitch here now. "Mitch," calls Rose, "where are you?" There's no response. All we can hear is the sound of the water lapping beneath our feet. "I don't think she's here," I say. Rose sticks her head into Mitch's store cupboard, then goes into her bedroom. While Wynne checks the deck outside, I go to investigate the fireplace. A cauldron is sitting over a long dead fire, and a chopping board lies next to it, covered with shriveled up herbs and flowers. A knife is pressed into a mouldy toadstool. It's like Mitch has walked out in the middle of making dinner, or a spell. Rose runs her fingers through the dust on the bottles that line the windowsill. Bright colours start to shine through, jade, crimson, and even a pale milky liquid that's threaded with swirling silver. "Where is she?" she says. Wynne comes back in. "I think she's gone." "What? Gone out?" says Rose. "Gone hunting for ingredients?" "No, just gone." He shrugs. "Like the unicorns and half of the merfolk. I reckon she's vanished." Rose puts down the bottle she's holding. "What do you mean?" "It's like I told Arthur," says Wynne. "Things have been disappearing. It happened around the same time the ground wobbles started and the sinkholes opened up." "Maybe they went to the tangled forest," says Rose. "It's huge. Loads of things could go in there and never be seen again." Wynne shakes his head. "Once I thought I saw it happen right in front of my eyes. I was down on the beach and a mermaid was jumping over a wave. I watched her fly up in the air and then she just vanished." Rose turns and goes over to the mantelpiece. It's covered in white shells, a horse made out of driftwood, a bracelet, and a dried up flower. Rose stares at the shells, and I see that they aren't randomly scattered like I thought. In fact, they spell out Rose. Rose stares and stares, then swipes her hand through the shells, sending them tinkling to the floor. "Mermaids move fast," she says. "You know that. That one you saw, she can't have vanished. You weren't looking properly." Rose's voice is raised. Just like me, she gets angry when she's upset. She glares at us both. "Maybe," says Wynne, "but I was just over at the lagoon and I can only see one mermaid in there. It used to be full of them. Where have they gone?" Rose turns and bangs out of the hut, and Wynne and I watch her go. She walks to the end of the deck and stands, arms folded, staring across the lagoon. Wynne picks up Mitch's spellbook and flicks through it. Then he says, "I think now Mitch has gone, I might miss her too." I know what you mean. I look around the abandoned room. I may have spent more time in Wynne's cave than Mitch's hut, but now I'm here I can remember how this place used to be full of smoke and the smell of herbs and spices and the sound of Mitch's laughter. The cauldron would be bubbling and Mitch would be sitting with her tail dangling in the hole, her blue hair coiled around her. If Wynne was made up of things I loved, then Mitch was made up of things Rose loved. Magic, the sea, and laughing at me and Wynne. "I'd better check if Rose is all right," I say, and I walk out of the hut. Rose is standing by a hammock tied to the branches of a willow tree. She pushes the hammock with one finger. "I'm not bothered," she says before I've said a word. "Mitch was cool, but she wasn't real, not like my friends back home." The water in the lagoon bubbles and ripples for a moment before becoming still again. "Perhaps you're right," I say. "Maybe she's in the tangled forest." Rose shook her head. "No, she loved it here." Looking around, I can see why. It's silent and beautiful. Mitch used to get annoyed with a lot of things, especially me and Wynne, but there's nothing to annoy her here. Rose turns away from me, and I notice that her shoulders are shaking. I wonder if she's crying, only Rose never cries. Once a log tied to a rope swing smacked her in the face and broke her nose, and she still didn't cry. I did. There was so much blood. I'm just considering putting my hand on Rose's shoulder, although I'm almost certain it will drive her mad, when I hear heavy breathing behind me. I turn and see Prosecco walking towards us. He's soaking wet. His glittering mane hangs in limp strands around his shoulders, and water drips from his body. He must have swum between the islands of the archipelago to get to Rose. He nudges past me and dips his heavy head until it's resting against Rose's cheek. She turns, and without saying a word, throws her arms around his neck and buries her face in his sopping mane. There they are, Rose and Prosecco hugging. Then they just stand there, Rose's arms squeezing tight, Prosecco's eyes closed, and the willow branches brushing the water. Rose looks up at me. We're going back to the crow's nest, she says. We're going to get Grandad and take him home. You really think we can do it? Of course we can. Then she grips Prosecco's mane and pulls herself up onto his back. I'm going to come up with a plan. Prosecco jumps past me, nearly knocking me into the lagoon, then gallops off across the island with Rose clinging to his back. His thundering hooves make the dragons rise up in the sky, and I watch as they circle the island once, twice, then soar off over the sea. And that's the end of chapter 23. See you next time. Bye.